The Conservatives have proven they are the party to be trusted with taxpayers' money. Rishi Sunak boasted this yesterday as another load of sewage got dumped by him on the whole country. Wasting £37 billion on Dido Harding's failed test and trace would suggest otherwise, along with the tired old taxpayers' money lie that any economist worth their salt would slam, since all money is printed by and belongs to the government. Far from the worst of this sham of a budget, though. Let's start with inflation, currently at 3.1%, rising to 4%. No doubt it'll go higher. They always seem to get this figure wrong. Everything is going to get more expensive, though. They're set to get even more expensive, and wages aren't going to keep up with their rebranded minimum wage. I'm not humouring them with their living wage crap, because it never has been and still isn't. So far, so dire. For universal credit claimants who lost £20 a week not all that long ago, Sunak has lowered the taper rate from 63 pence in the pound to 55 pence, meaning for every pound earned by in-work claimants, they can keep a whole 8 pence more of it. Whee! Effectively, he cut the universal credit bill by £6 billion a few weeks ago and has given £2 billion of it back, and thinks he deserves a pat on the back for it. By the time that inflation rise at the start I mentioned is included, assuming the Tories haven't underestimated it yet again, you'll lose about 37 pence in the pound to that, so enjoy your new approximate 12 pence an hour. Of course, the taper only applies to universal credit claimants who are in work, so there's nothing here for those unable to work, as their incomes will be eaten into by inflation, and that, of course, includes the always forgotten about legacy claimants, the most sick and disabled, and their unpaid carers who didn't even get a mention in Sunak's budget. People Sunak has ignored since becoming Chancellor, as they never received any additional coronavirus support to begin with. People faced with rising costs, more reliance on food banks, choosing between heating and eating. He was on telly this morning bleating about housing after being pushed on this. He looked like a rabbit caught in headlights. He'd never given the slightest thought to it. A Scrooge Chancellor who doesn't give a damn about the most vulnerable. Now, when the Tories came to power, one of the first things they did in the name of austerity was Axing SureStart, which was an invaluable source of support for young families, mine included at the time. Sunak is now bringing in family hubs. Sound a bit familiar, anyone? However, he's only happy to put £1 in for every £4 the Tories clawed back by decimating that service. A sticking plaster solution now for a mess they made, now at last seeming to have realised the value of such support, yet still not prepared to properly fund it so it actually works. This is one of several examples Sunak boasted about. Highest investment in a decade here, highest investment in a decade there. That's his own party's record in government. He's repeatedly trashing, undermining his own party's addiction to the years of austerity we've all had to endure. What a con it really was. Now, Sunak also decided to reduce air traffic duty on internal flights so that it's cheaper to fly around the UK. And this is utterly stupid from an environmental perspective. Makes no sense. Would have been better to reduce rail fares, which no doubt will be going up in the new year, as always. Do you think it'll soon be cheaper to fly than take a train? That's such a ridiculous prospect. But worse is the pollution aspect of that right before COP26. Not just crapping in our rivers, but now doing it from 30,000 feet too. How can we show our faces at a climate change event we're hosting? Not that these words even crossed his lips, climate change, after all that. He declared a big boost for hospitality with 50% off business rates. Now, this sector has arguably been clobbered more than any other due to COVID, so I'm sure many welcomed the boost, though with COVID numbers on the rise as we go into winter, it's more a recognition they're likely to get fecked over again very soon, and this is another preemptive band-aid ahead of any potential winter lockdown. Alcohol, my God, he went on for ages about that, didn't he? Highest taxes on stronger products, lowest taxes on weaker ones. I get the logic of it, but it really doesn't do anything to deal with alcohol as a societal issue. And with the amount of time he bleated on about it, it was clearly intended as a bit of a distraction. Banks get their taxes cut again. Perhaps he was distracting from this, as their profits are soaring once again. Utterly mind-bogglingly stupid, but Sunak is himself a former bankster, and such people are happily funding the Tories with extra cash. Now £4 billion better off in the form of a tax cut as they are out of their obscenely deep pockets. Remember, he chose this over helping people to feed themselves or heat their homes. Don't forget it. Let's turn to R&D, research and development. What a lovely vague term this is. The implication is that it's science, research, green energy, and jobs for the future. But with the R&D budget at 26 billion and tax relief being offered by Sunak to R&D in his statement amounting to 48 billion, well, this smacks of some creative accounting, doesn't it? What's this extra 22 billion pounds all about then, Rishi? You haven't said. Where's that going? Who's getting it? What's it for? Why haven't you told us? There was no increase to capital gains tax, meaning wealth is still being taxed less than earnings, so rentiers and investors pay less than you do in your job. There was no attempt to properly tax the likes of Amazon, so they can continue to pay tax peanuts as small and medium businesses have to pay their way. Taxation on shipping is reduced, which tends to favour tax havens to nobody's surprise whatsoever, given they tend to be small islands. Council tax rises of £400 per household are hidden in the detail, along with up to 32,000 civil service job cuts, no doubt leading to government departments ending up being run by outsourced companies as everything else the Tories have cut, which will be run by Tory donors, no doubt. Despite newspaper headlines claiming the exact opposite, the Office for Budget Responsibility, so often quoted by Sunak, has said that he, a Tory chancellor of the party of supposedly low taxes, has actually raised them by more than any other chancellor since 1993. Nursing pay cuts, the national insurance rise to come for everyone in work, and those rising inflation levels mean incomes are going to flatline or fall. 40 new hospitals got promised again. How they can keep saying that lie with a straight face is beyond me. 50,000 new nurses magicked out of thin air, an ambition to recruit 20,000 new police officers after they got rid of them all, a big prison building program, no doubt to be outsourced as all of our other prisons are, because they'll need somewhere to put all those pesky protesters once they pass their police crime sentencing and courts bill after all. Another house building program they won't meet its targets on, because they never do. £46 billion for railways that are privatised. So why on earth why is public money being used for that? Do they not screw us enough already? Fundamentally, though, the message of this budget is that the Tories have abandoned austerity. They've abandoned their mantra of the last 11 years as something that hasn't worked, has failed the country, and are spending with big declarations. More spending here and there than we've seen in the last 10 years. 10 years of their party strangling the nation with austerity, something that was always a con trick and merely saw public money shoveled into private pockets. Something so blatantly seen with all of the crony contracts. But they're not spending where it's needed to boost the economy, which is to put more money in the pockets of ordinary people who will then spend it in the economy. It's going to people who will pocket it, say, thank you very much, I'll just shovel it offshore. That doesn't do a damn thing for the economy. Ordinary people's incomes are being choked again, reducing spending power, harming the economy, showing the Tories cannot, should not ever, ever be trusted with our nation's finances. So expect a recession in the near future.